Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow, and I am back with an all new video. Today's topic is Ask Me Anything. But this is no regular Ask Me Anything. This is more of like an Ask Me Anything light or diet Ask Me Anything. So it's where there's less topics than usual because A, I'm short on time, and B, because my channeling that I would usually do on a daily basis, I kind of fell down into a channeling rabbit hole that took an entire week of my life up and produced over 30 pages of notes, and that turned into the latest members video on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So because I was wholly and solely committed to channeling the information on them, that kind of cut into my regular channeling time. If you are interested in seeing the result of those channeling sessions, there is a link down below in which you can join my channel membership and have access to that video and so many others. But I don't leave anybody hanging. This is no topic left behind. So I'm still putting out an AMA. It is going to be a little bit shorter. I think the last video I had done, we had looked into something like 50 topics. We have, I think, less than half in this AMA. But again, I'm committed to bringing you guys the goods that the guides bring me. So here we go. There are timestamps down below if you would like to hop around to look into any particular topic in detail. And I would love to hear how you guys are enjoying the light or AMA diet version. So be sure to let me know in the comments down below. So the first topic that I was asked to look into is on an actress by the name of Olivia Wild. Now, to the best of my knowledge, don't come after me if you're an Agent Smith. I said to the best of my knowledge. Olivia Wild got her start on a show called House, which was a medical drama TV show. And she's gone on to do a bunch of other things. She eventually got married and had some kids, and I have no idea what the fuck she's up to now because I don't research topics. But I do look into them on an energetic level. So this is what Olivia's energy wanted to share with me. Olivia Wild thinks she's hot stuff. Like really hot stuff. Not necessarily about her appearance. She concedes she's cute. And in the right outfit and lighting, she could be hot. But more as in having an over-exaggerated sense of self. So, for example, if she makes a pie, it's the best pie that's ever been made. And it deserves to be in a cookbook. Chicken? It's the most groundbreaking chicken that's ever been created, even if the recipe itself came from a cookbook. Her version is even better than the author's. Ditto for every role she has ever played, even if it was a minor role. To her, in her mind, she was really the star of the show. So this inability to see herself clearly bleeds over into every facet of her life, and thus she does not see herself clearly, not as a mother, as a partner, a daughter, nor a friend. So if, for example, she spends 2 hours with her kids, she's Mother of the Year. If she spends 15 minutes on the phone with a grieving friend, she's motherfucking Teresa. And she is positively insufferable in romantic relationships. She's the best lover, of course, the best partner, and never ever is she to blame if things go wrong. So she's the quintessential, it was all their fault, even if the fault is them lacking the ability to see how wonderful she is. I shudder to think of how she would view my energetic assessment of her energy. But hey, she gave me access to look into her energy, probably thinking I'd find no fault or blame with her, but thus are the delusions of grandeur and that they work like that. So that is what I have for you on Olivia Wild, and any questions, please let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is another actress by the name of Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman started off as a young star. She got her start, I think she was maybe even like 10 or 12 years old. She did win an Academy Award for her role in, I forgot the name of the movie. She played like a ballerina in it. Let's see what Natalie Portman's energy wanted to share with me. Natalie Portman still feels the sting of finding out her husband cheated. Again. Not as in she found out again because she had amnesia, because she definitely would like to forget, but as in he cheated. Again. After he swore repeatedly to her it was the last time, and that the last time was a accident. It was not. Not was it the last time that he cheated on her, not that it was even an accident, and not that even an excuse like that made sense to her. Like, how is cheating an accident? It didn't make sense to her. But that was Benjamin, her one-time husband. He was, they had actually met on the set of the movie that she won her Academy Award for. He was a dancer. He's French. He has a name like Benjamin Millepied or something like that. Again, I remember really random factoids, this being one of them. But that was Benjamin. He sometimes didn't make any sense. And she was the fool for falling in love with him. True, she wasn't extremely pretty. Talented, yes, but pretty? And again, this is her self-reporting. This is not my opinion. This is her saying, is she pretty? Maybe on a good day when she'd slept and remembered to put on moisturizer before bed, but most days, no. And she wishes she could say they fell in love, but it mostly consisted of Ben playing hard to get and ignoring her on set while hanging out with all of the other dancers. He did not fraternize with the actors and mostly gave them stink eye. Like it was demeaning for him to hang out on set with anyone that wasn't a dancer and only played one. And she wished the arrogant attitude would go away, but it was always thinly veiled. Even at award shows, even when she was the one that was winning the awards, but it didn't. His arrogance didn't go away. He didn't like actors much, that much was clear, and even though her career as an actor had given him a pretty nice life, he still didn't like actors. Maybe it was the French arrogance, but whatever it was, he had it, and it always grated on her. Not, that's why they split up. No. They split up because of the cheating. Again. For the fourth time. And she didn't know how she could look at herself in the mirror if she had decided to stay with him. Was it reckless for her to fall in love with an emotionally unavailable man? Absolutely. But that's what self-worth issues can do. Lead you down the wrong road, and it was one that she was finally happy to get off of. And that is what I have for you on Natalie Portman. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is a woman by the name of Chelsea Handler, who I think she used to be a talk show host. I don't think she currently is any longer. Then again, I don't watch TV and I don't know what the fuck is going on in celebrity culture. Maybe she still is. Let's see what Chelsea's energy wanted to share with me. Chelsea Handler doesn't like a lot of people. And she's not ashamed to admit it either. She does not like a lot of people, which is what made her time as a talk show host so funny to her. And for her. because she could say whatever she wanted to say and everybody thought it was a joke. But it was no joke, not to her. The joke was, in fact, on everyone else. The idiots tuning in and their stupidity lining her pockets and making her wealthy. Like, thanks, losers. You just paid for my trip to Cabo with my actual friends who happen to be celebrities, which you're not because you're stupid and you're probably ugly. Again, I remind you, this is Chelsea Handler's energy. So I ask her if she has a drinking problem, because I don't know, there was something about the way her energy came in. It kind of like reminded me, you know when somebody's like drunk, but they're like a bad, obnoxious drunk? That's kind of the way her energy felt to me, like a bad, obnoxious, drunk person. So I asked her if she has a drinking problem. And she asks, quote, according to who, end quote. Because she doesn't think it's a problem to drink. And, according to her, she needs to drink after dealing with all the stupid people in the world. So I ask her why she thinks people she hasn't met and doesn't know are stupid, and she tells me, it's obvious. It's because she's on TV, they're not, and they laugh at her cruelty because they think it was all a joke. So she turns it back around on me and she's like, how do you not see their stupidity? So I ask if her being on TV somehow means she's better than other people, to which she rolls her eyes and pushed me out of her energy. That is what I have for you on Chelsea Handler. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next topic I was asked to look into are something called Vrill. Now, my understanding of what Vrill were prior to looking into them was they're kind of like body snatchers. They can inhabit the host of a person, and they're usually celebrities for some reason. I guess the Vrill are really fucking picky body snatchers. They only inhabit the hosts of celebrities. That was as much as I thought I had known about them. And it's kind of like one of these, the topic of Vrill is kind of like one of these weirder, if you will, kind of like theories that are out there. I'm not calling it a conspiracy theory. I'm calling it a theory that there are these Vrill that are out there, and this is the way that they operate. So sometimes when we think we're seeing a celebrity out in the world, what we're actually in fact seeing is a Vrill that's occupying them because they're a body snatcher. So let's see what I was actually able to ascertain when connecting and looking into the energy of the Vrill. So Vrill are not real according to our understanding of them. But that doesn't mean that they are not real. They are. It's just that the way that we understand them to be, or the way we understand them to work, that's not real. As in, it's an incomplete reality of what we think they in fact are. So I asked my guides, how are they in fact real? And was told that they are more akin to a parasite than a body snatcher. Because they do not jump from one host to another host. And that's the way in which they are not real. Because they do not take over a body just to have a nice warm place to stay, like a person would take to a bed. It's not like that. The way in which they are in fact real is that they take over a body so that they can siphon on the host's life force energy off of them, but more. Because that's not all they're doing. They're, if you will, rather like a mini louche vacuum cleaner, where they're living off the memory of the host. So what is louche? Louche is, for anyone who's, this is a term you haven't heard of before, louche is kind of like the emotions that we release out into the world when there's a big grand scale event that happens. So for example, something like a 9/11, big event, known worldwide. Also look at like any world war, big event known worldwide, where there's a lot of people that are being unalived, where soldiers are going off to war and they don't come home. And these events create a lot of fear that is elicited by a large portion of the population. So kind of look like loosh, like it is perspiration. It's kind of like the way a person would sweat if they're working out and how that gets evaporated into the ear. That's kind of like loosh, but on an emotional level. So the Vrill are, if you will, like a mini loosh vacuum cleaner, where they are living off of not the emotions of the host, but the memories of the host. So they systematically drain them of their vitality just as a parasite would. But they also suck the person dry of specifically their memories and not just their life force energy, which could leave the person dry like a husk of their former self. So when I came to understand this, I asked my guides, why? Like, what's the reason for them, and what's the reason for them like specifically siphoning off the memories of the host? And what was shown to me was that they do it as they are trying to learn what it's like to be human, because they are not. And they do not have complex emotions and the mental processing that we do. They do it because they are not from here, as in they are extraterrestrials. So they come here in an effort to try to learn about what it means to be a human being by siphoning off the memories and the complex emotions and the mental capacities that a human being actually has. Now, what was also shown to me is that they look like the kind of fish that a person might have in a fish tank that cleans the algae off of the glass in the tank. Algae or algae? I don't know how to pronounce it clearly. So they have suckers on their mouth that literally suck the life out of their host. So if you don't know what I'm referring to, look at, like, Google what the kind of, I don't know if it's even considered a fish or like some organism, but like what are the kind of thing you would see in a fish tank that are sucking or cleaning the algae or algae off of the tank? That's kind of what they look like with the suckers in their mouth. And I was shown that they range in size from the size of a small salamander to being 1 foot long. That's not a fucking joke. I asked how they get into the host, and I was shown through a number of ways. Either through a person's, this is kind of gross, either through a person's ears, their nose, or their mouth, or, their anus. And don't worry, there's actually not many of them actually on Earth. So don't worry about them finding you. There's maybe about 10 to 50 of them on Earth at any given time. And they also were shown to me as preferring hot weather. So they're usually found in the tropics, and they usually enter people when they're in the water. And what was also shown to me is that the big ones have a harder time finding a host that they can fit in or inhabit. So when they get to be that big, they usually die off, and all of the hosts or various different hosts' memories die off with them. So that is what I have for you on Vrill. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next topic I was asked to look into is an actress by the name of Tori Spelling. Tori Spelling she's not deceased. Tori Spelling is the daughter of somebody named Aaron Spelling. He's deceased. That's why I was saying was, because he's a was, not an is. She's an is. So she's the daughter of somebody named, what did I just say his name was? Aaron Spelling. And he produced a number of very, very popular and famous TV shows. I think Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, Charlie's Angels, a host of other TV shows, and Tori is his daughter. And Tori Spelling appeared on the TV show Beverly Hills 90210. Let's see what Tori's energy wanted to share with me. Tori Spelling, interesting also because she's been married twice and I don't think she's taken either of her husband's name, just as an aside. Tori Spelling has had an eating disorder on and off for the better part of her life now. And here's also why it's notable. I know I'm jumping all over the place. Here's why to me it's notable that she hasn't taken her husband's name. It's almost like the only claim to fame she has is being Aaron Spelling's daughter, and through the association of her last name being Spelling. That's why to me it's notable. Anyway, Tori Spelling has had an eating disorder on and off for the better part of her life now. Because being around so many beautiful people and knowing deep down she was not one of them was hard. But she's also quick to say this is not a poor little rich girl scenario. But the reality is her dad was the so-called beauty broker because he always cast beautiful women on his show. So her dad was the beauty broker, and getting people on TV and knowing she too could be on TV, but it wasn't because she was beautiful. And being on TV wouldn't make her beautiful either. She would only get on TV because of who her dad was. So she had that. She was on TV, not because she was beautiful, but because it was her dad's TV show. So it was also a TV show in which she was surrounded by beautiful people, but never considered to be one of them. So the toilet bowl was her confessional. It was where she went to spill her guts, literally, about her self-worth issues, her lack of self-esteem, her bruised ego, her broken marriage, her cheating husband, all of it. The toilet bowl never judged her and always accepted what of herself she gave it. In some ways, the toilet bowl was her best friend. In fact, it was her only friend. But she catches herself and she says, again, this is not a poor little rich girl story. So she dries her eyes and waves me off. That is what I have for you on Tori Spelling. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is a former singer and reality TV star by the name of Nick Lachey. Now, I have previously looked into his ex-wife, Jessica Simpson, which I have linked down below if you want to go back and watch the segment on her. She was actually rather insightful. Now, let's see what Nick's energy wanted to share with me. Oh, and before we get into it, Nick Lachey was, I think, in a boy band called 98 Degrees, and he had a reality TV show with Jessica Simpson. They got divorced, and they have since both remarried other people and have kids with their spouses. Now let's see what Nick's energy wanted to share with me. Nick Lachey grimaces at my arrival, though he is quick to point out it is not me or my being there that he is grimacing at, but at what I've come to see, what I've come to ask him, and what I have come to know, because he knows invariably Jessica will come up, and no matter how much time and space has been between them, they are still tied together. And he shared with me, in a way, they will always be tied together, because they came into a new and different level of success and fame, and they came into it together. So they were tethered and energetically tied together through that shared experience. Because it was the reality TV show that catapulted him and her to a different level of stardom, and without it, they both knew they would never be that successful on their own. Sure, he'd been a successful-ish singer, But he laughs at that because he acknowledges he was not a very good one, and that wasn't the point of the band anyway. And that she'd been a singer too, but they were in reality going nowhere fast, and they would have been has-beens in a heartbeat. But Jess's father, always so clever, with eyes that only seemed to see the future and what could be, crafted them and brokered a deal, and they were too naive, too young to know the potential blowback off of selling your soul to the highest bidder. Did he love her? Yes, absolutely. But he also says it was in a puppy dog kind of way, as she was his pet. Young, pretty, and very naive. Because that was not in act. And no offense to Jess, she's not that good of an actress to play that dumb anyway. So she kind of was dumb, but he was kind of dumb too. But he was dumb to the way of the world and the way the industry really works. And he was completely dumb to the true nature of his former father-in-law, who'd, according to Nick Lachey, stop at nothing to secure his family's success. But his family's success, not Nick's family, Jessica Simpson's father, his family's success, as in his daughters, because they were his. And he didn't care about Nick and saw him as nothing more than a pawn. And maybe, in fact, Nick was a pawn because, look, he allowed himself to be used and guided. Did he get a taste of success? Yes. But he's not sure it was worth it. He was a good little foot soldier, and he kept his mouth shut, and he received a payday, and he walked away. And it was not what he had wanted, but Jessica looked him in his eyes, after the attorneys had left the room, after his beast, his words, his beast of a former father-in-law left the room, after negotiations had dragged on, and she looked him in the eyes and she told him it was what she wanted. Not her father, not her managers, not her agents, but her. And he believed her. And he believed her because he saw in that moment it wasn't him she wanted, but whatever future version of herself her father had infected her with. Again, these are his words. So it was whatever future version of herself her father had infected her with. And that was enough for him. Because he realized if she wasn't ready to fight for him, then they would never last anyway. So he's moved on and he's found happiness, and he hopes she has as well. True, she's successful. But is it a gilded cage? He asks. That's what I have for you on Nick Lachey. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next topic I was asked to look into, but is a singer by the name of Katherine McPhee. I don't remember the name of the show Katherine McPhee first came to be in the public sphere. She was on some sort of a singing show, and I don't know what happened to her after that. And then a few years ago, she reemerged, and she is now married to somebody by the name of David Foster, who is a much older, I think he's a maybe producer. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Again, I don't research the topics I am asked to look into, but he's a somebody in the music industry and he's much older than her. So let's see what Katherine's energy wanted to share with me. Katherine McPhee's got a lot going on. She has a busy and full life and finally feels she has meaning and purpose, because everything else in her life before was a series of false starts, and like a broken clock, she ticked forward. And she would go a few paces forward and then would stop. But that was then, and this is now, and she has healed David as much as he has healed her, and she is so glad for it. So I asked her, because I was asked if she married him for love or money. So I asked her, Katherine, did you marry David Foster for love or for money? But I also wanted to ask her this because I wanted to see not just the answer itself, but how she answered it. Because you can always tell a lot about a person by, because here's the thing, she could give me like a one-word answer, love or money. Is she going to expand on it? Because I feel like whatever a person chooses to lend after an answer, that tells us a lot about them. So I was curious to see what was going to come out of not just the answer itself, but how she answered it and what she would choose to share thereafter. So when I asked her this question, did you marry for love or money? Her eyes flashed to me, weary but not surprised. Because of course she acknowledges anytime a young girl marries an older and a very successful man, everyone thinks it's about money. But she didn't. She did not marry David Foster for his money. First of all, she shared with me she has always had a thing for older men, and that David was not the first one that she had been involved with. But aside from that, he intrigued her. She always liked older men because they seemed to have more to offer in terms of self-awareness, and she liked to connect to people mind to mind, depth to depth, soul to soul. And younger men or boys or whatever they were just didn't have that level of depth. But David did, and more so. He had a whole family that she got to know. And there was just so much more there, an entire rich family life, and she had loved getting to know everyone. And this family, as in David Foster's family, became her family. And that's when, according to her, David had known he was going to marry her. Because she, Katherine, was as much a part of his family as he himself was. But she hadn't done it to win favor. It's not like she took the time to get to know his kids and to learn about them and to cultivate a relationship with them. She didn't do it because she wanted to gain favor in his eyes. No. She had done it because she wanted to. Because in a life full of her own personal search for meaning, she'd finally found it with them. All of them. Not just David, though of course he was closest to her, but his entire family. His kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, cousins. And then she and David started their own family together because they had a child of their own. And she shared she felt fulfilled and finally at peace. Because a life spent searching for meaning, and she'd found it with the Fosters. And even their name, Foster. It was like they were her foster family and she was their ward. And it's a happiness and a deep sense of contentment that she feels. She shared she feels lucky to have found him and them, as in his family, in this lifetime. And would she love him without the money? Yes, of course she would. But she also acknowledges it is nice to have money. But also, of course, it's not why she's there. So I asked her if there's anything else she wanted to share with me from her time competing on a singing competition, or anything she wanted to share about her time in the music industry, and she rolled her eyes and said, the best part of the industry is being out of it. So that is what I have for you on Katherine McPhee. Any other questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is a hella fucking fast racer by the name of, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I think Usain or Usain Bolt. It's spelled U-S-A-I-N. He really, again, because I don't research my topics, he's hella fucking fast. That's all I can share with you. He's competed in the Olympics. He's really fast. Ta-da! You have, Wikipedia and Google if you want to learn about these people. You want to learn about the energy behind the veil? That's what I'm here for. So let's see what his energy wanted to share with me behind the veil. However you pronounce his first name, no disrespect to him, Usain or Usain Bolt is seriously fast. Let's just establish that. He's seriously fast. But for every fast and gifted athlete is the soul's meaning and purpose behind it. Because for him, in this lifetime, he carries the painful burden of his past lifetimes. And that is in fact why he is such a fast runner. So even if he doesn't have the conscious awareness of what has happened in past lives, his soul does. So if only he could outrun the things he's done in previous incarnations, and if only he could get away and if he could escape it. But he can't. So he runs. Because he has been, in past lifetimes, a general in an army, commanding his men forward, condemning them to be unalived on a battlefield. In a professional unaliver, like a hitman. A dictator, a brute, a bastard, an abandoned child left on the street that would be sure to be unalived without doing whatever it took to stay alive. So while he may not know it on a conscious level, subconsciously and on a soul level, he feels it. The dark swelling inside of him. So he runs to try to outrun it. So he asks rhetorically, is he gifted or is he really cursed? Is he successful or really is he just plagued? And lastly, does it even matter? Because the result is the same. He runs from the terrible things he's done and he's heralded for it. He wins awards for it and he is rewarded for it. So it's strange to him, all of it. And he is just beginning to understand and to see the truth of it and to start to wake up. In fact, much like the rest of us are. So he says to try and not be afraid of whatever gifts we may have, because they are part of the tapestry of the tapestry. What did I write here? They are part of the tapestry of our lives and our meaning and purpose in our incarnations. So that is what I have for you on Usain or Usain Bolt. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next topic I was asked to look into is a rather interesting one. And the question was if sororities and fraternities are a lifeline into the club. So let's see what the goods that the guides have brought me on this topic. So the short answer is yes. The longer and detailed part of the answer is the why and the how. And here's the why and the how. So first of all, anything that is born in secret automatically holds a lower vibration. Plus, because it's a secret, there's always the potential to be corrupted. So any secret type of sisterhood, sorority, or brotherhood, or fraternity is a low vibration. So, for example, imagine there's a much older kid or an uncle telling a little kid or telling his nephew to keep a secret for them. Because that's part of the grooming for what will later come and the further secrets that this kid will be told to keep. And who are they keeping it from? Their parents. So anytime there is a secret, it is automatically going to create separation and division. So it's a you and me versus a them kind of a mentality. So it's like, hey, nephew, I'm trusting you to keep this secret that I'm giving candy to you. Don't tell your parents. And then when he knows the kid's not going to tell the parents, then it's like, well, hey, nephew, I love you so much. Let me show you how I love you. Drop your pants down. Or I'm going to drop my pants down because this is how you're going to show me that you love me. And this is a secret. It creates a you and me versus them mentality. Second, it also primes the members to stay together and to put one another above anyone outside of their sorority or their fraternity or their country club or the club itself, whatever the club may be. Third, it also gives a person a sense of belonging, meaning, and purpose. Fourth, it normalizes keeping secrets. So let's say a young woman goes to college with the best of intentions and joins a sorority, and maybe she meets a man in a fraternity, and then they end up getting married. They start a family, and she's mostly involved with raising the kids and managing the house. He joins the Freemasons or a country club or any other sort of fucking club that there is out there. So she knows he can't or won't tell her anything, and she accepts it. She was in a sorority, she gets it. So she doesn't ask questions, and he has a whole secret life she knows nothing about. But let's say everything is on the up and up, and there's nothing even nefarious that's going on. It is still creating a separation and a wedge between a husband and a wife. So in actuality, how secure is their marriage? How bonded are they? Does she really even know him? And let's say we're going to again say there's nothing nefarious going on. This is with like the best of circumstances. But now imagine something nefarious is going on. And he has pledged loyalty to his brothers above all others. So he lives a secret double life, and it is sanctioned by his wife, who so-called gets it. Now take that and say it's not just between a husband and a wife, but it's between facets of the population. There's those that are in the club, and there's those that are not in the club. It creates separation and division. So it is very much normalizing keeping secrets while creating division and separation between subsets of the population. And this is, in fact, all useful for the club. So I hope that answers your question, or if fraternities and sororities, what was the question? Are sororities and fraternities a lifeline into the club? And if not, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person I was asked to look into is somebody by the name of Marina Abramovic. Now, she's kind of like an interesting kind of a character because she's somebody that does some interesting art. Really, really interesting and dark art. Like art that seems to show littles being tied up and art that seems to show littles being unalived. And she even did like an art installation of herself where people could do anything to her. Like if someone wanted to slap her across the face, they'd slap her and she would just stand there and take it. If someone wanted to knock her down, she would let them knock her down. Like, okay, kind of kooky, a little bit weird, a little bit out there. But she's also somebody that we might know to be somebody that does something called spirit cooking. If you don't know what this is, I don't want to ruin the surprise. I also don't know how much I can actually in fact say. So I'm not going to say. I'm going to say if you want to learn more about spirit cooking, there's Google for that. Let's see what Marina Abramovic's energy wanted to share with me, because this is the stuff I can't share. So Marina Abramovic loves the dark. Not just the dark side of life and of human nature, though that's a given, but the actual dark, as in the nighttime, as in the lack of light, and the expanse of the vast unknown, and to be outside and in it and with it and to feel it like it is a living, breathing thing. Because to her, the dark is a living, breathing thing. It's when she feels the most alive, the most aligned, and the most free. Okay, sure, daylight is fine and necessary for life on Earth to exist and to give a heartbeat to all of us useless eaters, but night is where she is most at home. This, too, is why she has never pulled away or shuddered from the dark side of people nor human nature. In this regard, she is akin to Nicole Kidman's dad, who I have, when I looked into Nicole Kidman, I had spoken about her father in that segment, also linked down below if you want to go back and watch it. But in this regard, she is akin to Nicole Kidman's dad, who found anything not of the dark to be banal. But whereas for him, it was because he delighted in exploiting the dark memories and the suffering of his patients, because he was a therapist, for Marina, it's because she likes seeing the darkness of others. And she likes seeing it reflected back to her. She has been involved, not like romantically, she's kind of like, I don't even know if this is like a thing. She's kind of like a mentor to a lot of fucking celebrities. She's like a mentor to Lady Gaga. I think someone had said she's like a mentor to like Jay-Z. Like, how though? She's not a musical icon. How is she mentoring them in other ways? So she really, Marina shared with me, really likes seeing the darkness of others reflected back to her. And they are mirrors to the dark of her own soul, and she to them and theirs. And no matter how dark they could be and how dark they could go, she could always go darker. I guess that's why she's a mentor. It's like, oh yeah, you think this is your limit? No, child. Let me show you what the limit actually is. She's a mentor of darkness. No matter how perverse they could be, she could be more perverse, she shared with me. So in this regard, it's like she competes with others for the prize of the most dark and the most deranged and the most perverse. But it's because they spur her on. It's only because of them that she can come to know herself and the depth of her own darkness and the depth of her own depravity by peering into the mirror of those that are around her. So her competing is really only to drive herself on, to drive herself further into the deep, dark recessions of her mind and of her soul. So she equally goads others that she mentors on to find the darkness of they themselves so that she in tandem can find the darkness in herself. And she shared with me, she has met a lot of dark people and she has done a lot of dark things. And then she turns to me and she says, but you? I'm not nearly dark enough for her, so she has no need for me. And thus ends the interaction with her. So that is what I have for you on Marina Abramovic. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, this next one is very, very short, but again, the person's energy chose to come in, so I share it with you. The next person I was asked to look into is a singer by the name of Lizzo, and she has gotten a bit of a public blowback on her because she was first, I think, she's kind of full-figured, and she was kind of like heralded as like the singer that promotes body positivity. And then it came out, I think there was like unequal treatment of her backup dancers depending on how they physically were appearing. And then she was also taking them to do like questionable activities. A number of them had come forward and said like they were encouraged to like do things that they themselves were not comfortable with when she had taken them to like a strip show or something in, I want to say like Amsterdam. Again, I remind you, I don't research topics. So anything I know is really anecdotally of whatever people are sharing with me when they ask me to look into a topic. So this is what I know about Lizzo, and let's see what her energy wanted to share with me. So Lizzo does not understand the fuss and why those, according to her, those ungrateful little bitches ran their traps about being... What the fuck did I write here? Why those ungrateful little bitches ran their traps about being on tour with her. There we go. She had just tried to infuse some fun and enjoyment to people's lives, and this is how they say thank you. Rude. That is all Lizzo's energy chose to share with me. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was actually not asked to look into, but I wanted to look into, and since I'm already looking into energy, I might as well look into someone I want to look into, is someone by the name of Vlad the Impaler. Now, Vlad the Impaler was actually like, I want to say almost like a Transylvanian like prince or something like, or like nobility in Transylvania in like the 1400s. And they called him Vlad the Impaler because there was documentation, or certainly rumors, of him beheading the army and the military of people that were going against him, putting the impaled heads on stakes all around his castle. Vlad the Impaler. Let's see what Vlad's energy wanted to share with me. Vlad the Impaler was drawn to the dark side of life and human nature. Besties with Marina Abramovic, one could say. He concedes that by today's standards, he likely would have been considered a psychopath because he had no empathy for people. But back then, they didn't know what psychopathy was. But by today's standards, he'd be considered a psychopath. Because he had no empathy for people. In fact, human emotions were a curiosity to him, and not something he himself understood, nor in fact even wanted to. But he also says some stories about him were modified. Some, not all. He was brutal. That is true. But the world was also different back then. So the modern day standards really can't or shouldn't apply to archaic behavior. But he was a proud man, and he felt he did what he did to protect his land and his people, and is fine with however history wishes to portray him. But he does, however, point out there is no truth to any affiliation pertaining to vampirism, and he did not do what he did out of bloodlust. Because some have said that Bram Stoker wrote the story of Dracula, Count Dracula, and that it was based off of Vlad the Impaler. So he's saying what he did was not done out of bloodlust, and any rumors that say he was consuming blood is not true. Again, he points out different world, different time, different standards. And those that write history do not always remember it accurately and can, in fact, be prone to exaggerate. He was terrible. He'll fess up to that. He was terrible. That is true, but not to the level that it has been said about him. So I hope that answers any questions that you may or may not have had about Vlad the Impaler. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next people I was asked to look into is a couple by the name of Rosie Huntington Whitley and Jason Strahan. Now, Rosie Huntington Whitley is a model and Jason Strahan is an actor. What's notable about them is there's a very big age gap between them. So I think they started dating when she was like 20 and he was 40, or she was like 22 and he was like 44. Some big age gap like that. There's a big fucking age gap between them. However, they're married, they've got kids. Let's see what their energy wanted to share with me. Rosie Huntington Whitley and Jason Strahan, they just love each other. Genuinely and truly. Jason just loves Rosie. Like really, truly, deeply, madly loves her. So while to the rest of the world, she's so beautiful and she's a model, and to men, she's a hot piece of ass, to Jason, he sees her soul. These two have a deep soul connection because many of their previous lives were spent in romantic pairings and they were healthy ones at that. So these are not two so-called dysfunctional souls working out their karmic shit, but rather, in fact, these are souls that are deeply tethered to one another in a healthy love. Thus, when they met in this life, they immediately sensed a feeling of familiarity and home with one another. And just as Jason did not see the pretty little body that Rosie is in because he sees her soul, so too Rosie did not see their age difference. She just saw Jason. So people are like, how can you be in a relationship with a man so much older than you? And she's like, what do you mean? We just love each other. These two have a beautiful and loving relationship and a beautiful and loving energy around them. So for anyone who is wondering if this kind of deep soul connection and love exists in a healthy way, it does. Because this is the second such couple I have seen that share this. The first I had seen was between Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick in a segment linked down below. So it is absolutely possible. It is possible and an absolute joy to feel this positive love. And I remind you that not all soul contracts are negative because we have both positive and not so positive experiences and lessons that we have queued up for ourselves as the cosmic creators of our own reality. So take heart. Good lessons and blessings do exist. And Jason and Rosie are one such couple experiencing it. So I hope that answers any questions that you have on them. And if not, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is an actress by the name of Jennifer Hudson. I have been using Jennifer Hudson as an example for fucking ever about what it looks like to sacrifice someone to the club for your success. Because what do we know about Jennifer Hudson? She was in one movie. I mean, maybe she's been in some since then, or maybe a few before then. She had one really, really, really big notable role, which she played a singer. I think she was in a movie with Beyonce where they were singers. This was like her big breakout role. She won an Academy Award for it. That doesn't really happen. Like, I mean, okay. Let me modify. It does. It has. But for different reasons. So it happened to somebody by the name of Lupita Nyong'o, who I have also linked her down below as I previously looked into her. And this also happened to an actor by the name of Adrien Brody. Now, Adrien Brody I have spoken at length about in the video that I have done on the Hollywood industry, also linked down below. Really, if you haven't seen that video, it should be consider to be essential viewing for this channel because it's going to explain so much about everything else that comes up when looking into an actor or actress's energy. But Adrien Brody was kind of like a one-hit wonder for a different reason. Go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it. I go into deep detail on it. Also in the video, the segment on Lupita Nyong'o. So it's really an anomaly that people like almost come in out of nowhere and then they win an Academy Award. It's an anomaly. So I've been using her for a really, really long time as to her being a really clear example, because I've consistently gotten, when I've looked into her, without even doing a deep dive, I consistently have gotten that her family was a sacrifice to the club. Because what actually happened to her family was her mother, her sister, and her nephew were all unalived. And it was blamed on her brother-in-law. I think they had said like her brother-in-law, like, I don't know. This is going back many years ago. This was when I was still very, very asleep. So I actually do remember reading about this. But I think they had said like he kidnapped his... I don't know, the whole story was just bizarre and wacky. Like he kidnapped his wife, they were estranged, so he kidnapped Jennifer's sister and the mother and he unalived them, and then like later on, like the nephew was found unalived as well. It's a really sordid, dark story. And I've always consistently seen that they were a sacrifice. But interestingly enough, a lot of things that I did not expect came through when I looked into Jennifer's energy. So let's see what her energy wanted to share with me. Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson can't look at herself in the mirror. Oh, she's tried. For years now. But anytime she showers or has to put makeup on, she mostly allows her eyes to go slack. So she's looking, but she's not really seeing. She can't see. She won't see. It's all too horrific, and it haunts her every second of every moment of every day. What the hell did she agree to? She asks herself. What the hell was she thinking? She asks herself. Only to come to the conclusion she wasn't. She couldn't have been, because no one in their right mind would ever agree to what she agreed to. But she was swept up in it. All the attention, all the fashion houses wanting to work with her, Vogue wanting to feature her. It was like she was the icing on the cake that everyone was eating, and they all wanted a piece of her. She was the icing on the cake that they were all eating. They all wanted a piece of her. To lick her, to taste her, to do all sorts of other things she couldn't even make sense of. And suddenly, the industry got real dark there, and she had the distinct impression that she was no longer safe. Then came the subtle and then the not so subtle threats, until finally someone just came out and said it. It was her, or pledge another, because even though she didn't ask for any of it, it was given to her and payment was required. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, celebrities can pledge another celebrity or another person in their stead. They can, i.e., sacrifice another person to move up the ranks of the club. Linked down below is a video, a segment in a previous AMA that I have done on P. Diddy and Notorious B.I.G. Linked down below is also a segment I had done on Whitney Houston. You can absolutely pledge another if you want to move up the ranks in the club. As long as you, when you know that you're pledging them, You are taking the full responsibility if it doesn't go your way, and if it doesn't go the way you think it's going to, or if you get picked up by the police, or if you get questioned, or whatever the fuck, you are accepting all responsibility for it, and you cannot bring anybody else down with you. It's a thing. It can happen. So she was told, okay, Jennifer, either you're giving us yourself or you're pledging another. And she's like, I'm sorry, for what now? And they tell her, even though you didn't ask for any of it, it was given and payment is thus required. Oh, she didn't know that's how things worked? That's too bad, they told her. Maybe she should have paid closer attention to what exactly she had signed, because it was right there. And then she looked at the contract, and well, fuck. There it was. Her signature signed in haste because of all the sweet talking and promises that was made. Look here, not there. We're going to make you a star. You're going to win an Academy Award. Just sign right here. Don't look at the fine print. So, what's a girl to do? In her case, she said to take someone else. Don't unalive me, unalive another. But she did not want to know who. She didn't want to know. She just wanted to live a nice, normal life, and she thought it would be someone that she wouldn't know. Someone else. Someone maybe like an old farmer that's living in middle America. And she acknowledged, yes, it sounds foolish. She knows that. She's like, the lies she told herself. She gets it. Because the alternative was too bad, too dark. But nothing compared to the reality. Her family, her life was shattered to a million pieces along with her heart and her soul. And after that, she didn't care anymore. Not about anything. She didn't care if she ever acted again. She just wanted to disappear and try to heal the hurt. And even though she didn't know if that was possible, that's all she wanted, to disappear and to heal the hurt. Because she knows deep down fundamentally, she did this. And it's taken time, and slowly the sun has begun to shine again. But in all honesty, it wasn't worth it. None of it was worth it. Nothing would ever be worth it for what she lost. And that's the truth she lives with every day. So that is what I have for you on Jennifer Hudson. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is an actor by the name of Alexander Skarsgård. I really don't know that much about him. Really, the extent of what I know about him is he was on a TV show called True Blood. That was a very interesting, out-of-the-box kind of a show that was on HBO about vampires. Let's see what Alexander's energy wanted to share with me. Oh, and he's also hella fucking tall. That's all I know about. And kind of cute. He was on another show with, what's it called? I forget. It was another HBO show with a whole bunch of women, and he played like an abusive husband against Nicole Kidman. Okay, let's see what Alexander's energy wanted to share with me, because that's where I thrive, not in regurgitating 3D information on a person. Alexander Skarsgård is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He is cute though. But really, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. But he doesn't know it, so maybe don't tell him. He is the quintessential example of someone who doesn't know what he doesn't know, nor does he in fact care to know. So imagine, if you will, growing up in a small town, and your small town only had one ice cream shop, and in their ice cream shop, they only had one flavor, and it was vanilla. So you grow up your whole life thinking the only flavor ice cream that exists is vanilla. Then one day you leave your town and suddenly there are so many ice cream shops and so many flavors, but not caring about any of them because vanilla is all you have come to know. That's Alexander Skarsgård. What's his vanilla, you may be asking? Privilege. Alexander Skarsgård has lived a very privileged life that also happens to include acting. He almost doesn't see people as people because of his privilege. But he certainly likes to think that he does. But again, he doesn't know what he doesn't know, including the way the world works or how people live, or really much outside of himself, because he lives a perfectly insulated life in an insulated bubble that's sure to never pop because privilege. That is what I have for you on Alexander Skarsgård. He's also, I realized something, he's a Skarsgård. There's another actor with the same last name. I have a feeling they're related, right? That's notable. Family members in the industry. Notable. Okay, that's what I have for you on Alexander Skarsgård. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is an actress by the name of Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone is most famous, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, in my recollection, by my estimation, most famous for being in a movie called, I forget. So typical of me. It's a movie in which she's like a murder suspect, I think. She's wearing a white dress. She's in the police interrogation room. And she's crossing and uncrossing her legs. And the investigators that are talking to her, they're trying to see if she's wearing panties. Because when she walks in, her dress, it's like it's glued to her body. And they're like, there's no way she's wearing fucking panties in that dress. So when she's crossing and uncrossing her legs, they're like trying to get a look, right? Okay, so I may not know the name of the movie, but I remember the important bits. The bits in which they wanted to see if they could see her lady bits. Let's see what Sharon Stone's energy wanted to share with me. Sharon Stone shakes her head. It's a dismissive action. It's not like, I don't want to talk to you, go away. It's like, it's a dismissive action, but not one directed at me, but at the Hollywood industry. She says it's, quote, a low down dirty shame, end quote, how they treat women, taking the best years of a woman's life when they are at their peak, sucking them dry and then tossing them aside when they're done with them. She knows because it happened to her. But she's not the only one it's happened to. No. No one wants to talk about it or talk out against it because they'll all be seen as ungrateful or like they are biting the hand that feeds them, or worse, being called a rich, entitled brat. But in reality, according to Sharon Stone, none of them are rich. And none of them know when they're young and they are in their heyday that the roles will eventually dry up and one day no one will think of them any longer and they will get put aside. And at the end of their career, they won't even have enough money to live another 30 years. And the so-called residual checks that these celebrities get, right? Like every time somebody watches any of her films, at the end of the month, she gets a residual check. This is a complete aside. Pause right there for a moment. I'd like to know why I was working in social media, every time one of my social media posts was looked at, why I didn't receive a residual check. But they do. Make it make sense. Okay. So for those residual checks that they get, Don't even get her started on them because they're a joke. So everything is stacked against them. And they all know it now. Now that they are older and nobody wants them any longer. She's having a little pity party for herself. Nobody wants them for roles. Nobody wants them for dates. Like they're just supposed to shrivel up and die. How about no? So it's at this point she gives me a good long look and says she hopes I have no aspirations to make it as a star because they will suck me up and they will spit me out. And it will happen so fast I won't even know what happened. So I tell her, thank you, Sharon Stone, for your concern. I have no plans on being an actress. So she tells me to find myself a rich husband and try to stay married, even if it means looking the other way while he cheats. I again thank her for her concern, and I start to energetically sneak away from her because this exchange has taken a rather unexpected turn, and it's not one that I'm entirely comfortable with. It's like, hey, let's clearly define our roles here. I'm the energetic tabloid writer. I came to look into you. I don't want my energy looked into. So I kind of start to sneak away because I'm like, no, thank you for your concern, but no. However, when I had disconnected from her energy, I was curious because she's like, how the fuck is she expected to live another 30 years? And she feels like she doesn't even have enough money to live off of, right? The roles has dried up. Nobody else wants her. She's not getting any further income, no further earned income, and the residual checks aren't enough for her to live off of. So I was like, okay, Tio, time out, Sharon Stone. When I disconnected from her energy, I decided to look into her net worth. Are you ready? Sharon Stone has an estimated net worth of $60 million. So I was like, okay, Sharon, okay. So if you having $60 million, which is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's $60 million then more than any of us have. If you have $60 million and you're saying that's not enough for you to fucking live on for the rest of your days, somebody needs a reality check. But also, if according to her, she can't live off of $60 million, there's no hope for us. No, I'm kidding. She got used to a certain standard of living, and that's the way she wants to continue to live. So because of her standard of living, $60 million is not enough. We all have gotten used to a much more limited lifestyle because we are in servitude. We live in a matrix, we're in servitude. We can survive, worry not, guys, worry not. We're okay. It's the snowflakes that are not going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're hardier. We're built from a different stock. 2% personal opinion. That is what I have for you on Sharon Stone. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is a former, I want to say movie director by the name of Stanley Kubrick. I think he had done, what's the name of that movie? I know he did Eyes Wide Shut, but he had done, I don't even remember, a whole bunch of other movies. So let's see what Stanley Kubrick's energy wanted to share with me. And are those rumors that he had filmed a fake moon landing real? We get there, don't worry. So Stanley Kubrick chuckles at his so-called younger three-dimensional self and how easily manipulated he was. He said he had an artistic arrogance about him, and his desire to create art, or what he considered to be art, was something that he sees could ultimately have been used against him, and in fact was used against him. Because he was approached as the one so-called artist, and he was being told that he, and only he, could bring such magnificence to life. Only he could tell the tale of wonder they wished to portray, and that only he could do it justice. They appealed to his ego. So because of his arrogance, and because it was bombarded with all of this praise, and it made him feel so damn good, the artistic side of him purred like a cat that was being pet, and he did not stop to think why they were doing this. It was like he was lulled into believing the tale they spun for him, because it was so what he wanted to hear and to have his excellence recognized, so that he didn't stop and question the fact of why. Like, why are they creating a moon landing instead of landing on the moon? He didn't stop to reflect on the why. And it wasn't because, again, his ego was being stroked, and they're like, you're the only one that could bring this to life. We need you, Stanley Kubrick. And it wasn't until much later on, when his guilt started to eat away at him, that he even started to wonder or question why, or to question it at all. But he was so much older and wiser, and he had really seen a thing or two at that point. So he didn't, in fact, ever really wonder, because he knew. Everything was fake, including his beloved industry. And that was the story he tried to tell with the movie Eyes Wide Shut. It was, if you will, like a reveal. But he couldn't make it a direct one-to-one correlation and make it be set in Hollywood. So he moved it to New York, but he also cast two of Hollywood's hottest actors, wow, was that not a Freudian slip? Tom Cruise? Freudian slip coupled with, I am the inventor of actors at this point. Tom Cruise and his wife, Nicole Kidman. They were cast in this film to play the lead roles, and that was done intentionally, so those that knew would maybe catch it. And he made it about regular people as well, not about actors, but the tells were there. And the movie was essentially one giant tell about secret societies, and those that have experienced discontent in their life will be the ones to seek more, and thus they will be the ones to find it. Because basically Tom Cruise, the character he's playing, is a doctor bored with his life, bored with his wife, so he goes looking for trouble and he can find it in a secret society. More or less or more. Because that's essentially how the club sinks their talons into you, according to Stanley Kubrick. Yes, doctors too, not just the actors, but especially those. But his time had come, and it was around then that he crossed over, so he can now see how his pursuit of expertise was used against him. And it's okay. He doesn't feel a longing for the earth plane, nor a sense of loss for being on the other side. No, he's rather content. He lived a life, and a good one at that, and now he is having another different kind of a life, if you will, on the other side. And it's rather magnificent. So that is what I have for you on Stanley Kubrick. Any questions, please do let me know down below. The next person whose energy I was asked to look into is, I believe, a comedian by the name of Dave Chappelle. There is a lot of speculation if it's him we're seeing or if it's actually, in fact, a clone of him. So let's see what Dave Chappelle's energy wanted to share with me. Dave Chappelle, this is a quickie. He popped in to bring me a message. This is what it is. Don't join the Hollywood club, because it's whacked. I asked if he wanted to expand on it, and he said, nope. Because by now, there's more than enough information about it that is coming out, and more that will be coming out soon. And one day he hopes to be vindicated, but there is just so much to see and do and explore on the other side. And that's where he wants to be, so bye. So I hope that answers your question on Dave Chappelle, and if it's him we're seeing, and if not, please do let me know down below. Now, this next one, this took a very, very interesting and unexpected turn. I was asked to look into, I believe a female basketball player in the WNBA by the name of Brittney Griner. Let's see what Brittney Griner's energy wanted to share with me. Brittney Griner's energy scared me, and I'm not even a little bit ashamed to admit it. Seriously, her energy scared me. Like at any moment, I expected a snake to slither out of its mouth. Not her mouth, its mouth. And attack me. Like there is something seriously dark lurking inside, but it's shadowed, so I cannot see what this seriously dark thing is. But even though I can't see it, I can feel it, and it creeped me out. Now, the shadow of what I was not able to see but could feel partially ensconces Brittney in it as well. So this is why I also couldn't really get like a clear reading, because Brittney itself is in the shadows. Which is a weird thing to say, don't worry, I explain. And the reason for that is, I don't think Brittney is its real actual name. Because the name Brittney doesn't connect me to this person. So it's almost like a curtain, if you will. Like the name Brittney is concealing its actual identity. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit more about this in case you're newer here and you don't know the way in which I'm able to read energy. Energy is fluid. It's like the wind. Like, is a chain link fence going to stop the wind? No. Can a building perhaps divert the energy? Sure. So energy can be diverted, but it can't be stopped and it can't be destroyed. Which is why also, for anyone who doesn't know yet, that's why when your body dies, your soul lives on. It's energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be converted. Now, the way in which me as an energy reader is able to connect to another person's energy is I need some sort of a, if you will, three-dimensional identification of a person. So just like, for example, when somebody is getting on an airplane, they show their ticket and they show their identification. So the ticketing agent or the person at the security desk knows this is the right person that is getting on the airplane because the name and the ticket match. So the way that I can pick up on another person's energy is through a name. I need a 3D representation. Some people don't need a name. They can read somebody's energy if they hold an object of theirs. So let's say you go to an energy reader and they don't connect to a person through name. They say, bring a possession of this person. So you bring that person's favorite pen and you give it to the energy reader. They can read the energy that's connected to the three-dimensional object that person used, as in a pen. I read energy by connecting to a person's name. So when I was trying to connect to the name Brittney Griner, part of the reason it was concealed to me is because the name Brittney doesn't actually identify to this person. So it's kind of like a curtain that's meant to conceal the identity of this person, because I don't think Brittney is this person's or this entity's name. So I'm not also entirely sure that it's human or what its gender is, or if it maybe is in fact genderless. That's why the very first thing I said at the top is Brittney Griner's energy scared me, and at any moment I expected a snake to slither out of its mouth. Not her mouth, not his mouth, its mouth. Because it's like an entity. It's an it, it's not a who. So I'm not entirely sure if it's human, or what its gender is, or if it's genderless, but whatever it is, it seriously creeped me out. Like, it's not real. And I was starting to get the sense that it was sent here to be a diversion or to gather intelligence. And the longer I sit with its energy, the more it reminds me of a made-for-TV series by the name of V. Now, don't worry if you haven't seen this series. I'm very well acquainted with it. Because apparently when I was 4 years old, when this series, made-for-TV series came out, I was obsessed with the series V. It was like a made-for-TV event. I think it was maybe like 4 hours or something like that. And it was basically a series about extraterrestrials that came to Earth. And they looked like humans. And if not for the fact that their tongue was forked, like a snake, and if not for their voice that sounded different, one would not in fact ever know that they were not human. And apparently I was obsessed with this series. If you too remember the series V, let me know, comment down below. Let me know that you either remember it or maybe you, my homie, and you were obsessed with it also. So the more I kind of sat with its energy, it was starting to in fact remind me of the series V. Now, this is also the way in which information will sometimes come into me. It comes in, or the way that the guides will sometimes bring it into me is through the lens of a way in which I could make sense of it. So it came in vis-a-vis me being reminded by my guides, oh, hey, remember that series you used to love, V? Where extraterrestrials that look like they're human, but they're not human, came to Earth? So it's where these extraterrestrials that seem so normal, if not for their voice and their forked tongue, you might think them human, but they're not. They're in fact reptiles. They got a forked tongue. And the more I stay with its energy, the more I'm starting to be sure that it is one. A cleverly concealed one, but a reptilian nonetheless. And one that I could, what did I write here? A cleverly concealed one, but one nonetheless, and one that I could find out to be what it is by pushing through the uncomfortable way in which it made me feel. And I think that's how it hides. In plain sight, but by people being repelled by it and not staying with its energy long enough to find out what it is. Because I was repelled, but I also stayed with it. But I'm also going to share with you, this is not an elite reptilian. There's more than one kind. This is not an elite reptilian, but literally one from elsewhere. And thus why my guides had reminded me of the TV series V and how those came from outer space. So in case you're also hearing about this and you're like, there's more than one kind of reptilian? Hey, what now? So some of the reptilian actually like to implant their own into prominent positions for various different purposes. You can watch the segment I've done on Jason Bieber, link down below if you want to go back and watch it. But there's more than one kind. Some are implanted into prominent positions. Others actually literally come from a different place because they're extraterrestrial. And this is the sense that I was getting of this Brittney Griner. This is not a prominent position implanted reptilian, but one that literally came from someplace else, and that's why its energy creeped me the fuck out. So that is what I have for you on Brittney Griner. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Oh, also a notable thing about Brittney Griner, This is a so-called woman that's like 7 feet tall. Really? All right, the next topic I was asked to look into are two sisters that are, surprise, surprise, actresses in the industry. This is Dakota and Elle Fanning. Cannot even begin to tell you what they've been in. I think one of them was in one of the Twilight movies and was in a movie with Tom Cruise, War of the Worlds. Let's see what their energy wanted to share with me. Dakota and Elle Fanning are, surprise, surprise, from a family that is in the club. Are we surprised? I hope not by now. Because surprise, surprise, not only is it super rare for one child to make it in the industry, the odds of two is astronomically small. Not that they are, what did I write here? Not that they're the something ones. Not that they're the only ones. Here we go. Not that they're the only ones. Because any family I've looked into with more than one kid in Hollywood, I have been shown is in the club. Such as Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal, Mary-Kate, Ashley Olsen, and their sister Elizabeth, as well as the Baldwins. So this is not by any means some sort of a new phenomenon. However, what was done to the other little kids in the other little kids in the industry, where they're seen as hors d'oeuvres, was not done either to Dakota nor Elle, because they are from a Hollywood elite family. Thus, they would be more akin, if you will, to a Gwyneth Paltrow type family, and how she was not subjugated to any of the things that other people had endured when joining the club. She was from an elite family. So too is Dakota and Elle Fanning. Thus, they are exempt from it. But just because some stuff wasn't done to them doesn't mean others weren't. So sodomy wasn't done to them. Other stuff was done to them, such as them both receiving a ton, not a little, a ton, of MK Ultra mind control. Because it was shown to me that they are being groomed for something, but what it is has not been shown to me, or it has not been decided at this time because they are still too young. But I do think it is something to do in politics or foreign affairs is in fact very likely. So they're starting off in the Hollywood industry, but it's actually to segue them into something else when they are older. So that is what I have for you on Dakota and Elle Fanning. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, the next person whose energy I was asked to look into is a rapper by the name of Eve. Don't know, I don't have the faintest of fucks, anything about her other than she's a rapper. And I know this because somebody said, can you look into the rapper Eve? So let's see what the rapper Eve's energy wanted to share with me. She is brash, very no nonsense, and she has a good head on her shoulders. She does not jump into anything without weighing the pros and the cons. And she really, really, really wanted me to know anything out there about her that says otherwise is a lie. She was taught at a young age to slow down, think things through before proceeding, and it's something that she has always done. Singing and performing was not, in fact, her end game, and she did not get into it for the fame either, but for the money. But more than just the money, what does the money represent? She could get behind that. What does money represent? Freedom. The ability to control your own destiny. That's why she got into it. For the money, but not for the money, but what the money represented. Because to her, money represented freedom and the freedom to explore what she could do with it and what she could do with her mind. So she didn't mind getting into music and using it as a stepping stone to make money and then to get out. She's mostly happy about all of it. However, not the drama in the music industry, because she says it is just ridiculous. It's like everyone gets worked up into a tizzy and they hate one another only to pretend one another when they are on the red carpet at the next award show. It was so juvenile and really not something she wanted to be any part of. So aside from that, she feels she's had a mostly positive experience in the industry, but she's also really glad to be out of it. So that is what I have for you on the Rapper Eve. Any questions, please do let me know down below. We are just about at the end of our diet, Ask Me Anything, or AMA Light. I got one more topic for you guys, and it's a shorty. I was asked to look into an actor by the name of Mark Ruffalo. Let's see what Mark's energy wanted to share with me. Mark Ruffalo shakes his head at me and says, "No way. He will not speak to me because he's worked too damn hard for this and he will not put it all in jeopardy by speaking with me." So that is what I have for you on Mark Ruffalo. Any questions, please do let me know down below. Now, before I sign off, I'm just going to remind you guys that you can always, of course, request topics in any of my videos. And if you have ever asked me a question and I have not answered it to date or in any of my previous AMAs, it does not mean that I'm not going to get to it. It just, as a reminder, means that for whatever reason, that person's energy did not choose to come into me at that time, or I had too many other topics to look into and I wasn't going to stand around banging on the door demanding to be let in, so I moved the fuck on. But I do keep a running list of all topics I have been asked to look into, and if somebody's energy does not come into me, I will make another effort and attempt. So please, if you have stayed this far, let me know if you have enjoyed Diet or AMA Light. And I remind you to please take what resonates and to leave the rest behind. And as always, and until next time, I remind you, stay in the high vibration.